Alright, so I'm going to provide another perspective on this whole stage-managed Blue Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. First of all, I'm going to start and say the problem with a lot of police today is that they do cover for the wrongdoings of other police officers. And they are taking part in a collaborative extortion racket. So you'll have some that have never shot an unarmed black man ever in their life. They've never killed anyone. But they've taken part in the system. And they've become brainwashed by their own thinking. Well, if we didn't have rules and regulations, we'd have complete anarchy. There's also the role for the protector. And the traditional male protector in our society for women in this breakup of the family, and really what I call a gender warfare scenario, which is manufactured to divide us. And the more we're divided, the more easier we are to take over, mind control, manipulate, be put into desperate situations where we'll sell our own morals and integrity, if not our own body, in order to survive. And when you have two people working together, you have more of an ability to make it. And so for a lot of women, they need the police for protection if they're attacked. And so there's a built-in part of our society that demands police and wants police to intervene if, say, their civil rights are violated, even if they're protesting the police, which some people think is a little bit weird. They could be burning the flag, and a lot of people have pointed out the hypocrisy in anarchists calling for police when people assault them. Not that I'm for their assault. And so it's a really complicated situation. There's always going to be a need in our society for police, for people to call them for help because they don't have friends or community or tribe to help them if they're being attacked, raped, so on and so forth. There's also great legal repercussions that can come into the ordinary person taking the law into their own hands. If they're not a police officer and they're just a regular person, when they go to court, most of the time, they're going to be facing heavier penalties. But shifting gears, now that I've said all that, certainly not an apologist for the police. Certainly have had my own run-ins when I was younger, being pulled over, times where I had no insurance, and because it was their job over a period of a certain number of years where I was really struggling that much financially, even while working in Portland just to keep up my insurance payments and rent and everything else. I ended up paying thousands in court costs. And that's what really stands out the most for me as far as the financial oppression. From my own experiences, and I've had some other experiences when I was even younger than that and made some dumb decisions. But I don't see all cops as killers. I see a lot of cops as brainwashed. And I've spent countless hours watching cop watch videos where you see a positive and negative reaction from the police officer. There's plenty of human beings out there that are police officers because they've bought the line. They've bought the lie that they are protectors. And in some small communities, they may be, where they're not feeding on the population, and they're there just to enforce crimes. I've seen it in small towns in Colorado. So not all police are doing the exact same thing or kind of enforcement, nor are all police under the same ordinances or rules and regulations. Certain cities and counties sometimes propose their own unconstitutional rulings, and they have police go out and enforce the will of the state, which is unfortunate. It's part of that going along with the extortion racket paradigm. So at worst, they're thieves, and they don't realize they're taking part in oppression. But murderers, deserving of death, what I see is a manufactured unrest within our country that's taking certain things too far. And I also want to mention that the recent high-profile police shootings to where they make it the headline, and in some cases they'll prosecute a few bad apples, but in reality mostly just show you on CNN to get you angry about what's going on, and then of course the protests get the coverage as they storm the freeway. and people are all pumped up into some fervor, all cops in the ground. But going back to my main point, I've said for years, and so have others, that this was really about demonizing local police departments in order to federalize things. So Portland, for example, is a great example where you see the Department of Justice investigating the city of Portland for several shootings or a shooting of an unarmed black man. And it's not that we shouldn't be having these investigations, it's why is the government pretending that it cares? It doesn't matter that it's Loretta Lynch. They often put black faces on the establishment. We've seen what they've done with Obama. And so with Obama's cabinet, we have CNN media hosts where you have black commentators that aren't actually talking about the corruption of the system, but they're pitching from the left, and Fox News has its own pitching from the right. You know, I think that the term could be considered racist, token black guy, by some, because I've seen people racially attack black people that have white friends, calling them token black guy, which is insulting. That's what Costilla County did to my friend Michael and Akeem, to the token black guys in the off-grid community, but they're really white supremacists. I mean, that was bullshit what I went through, trying to live in another off-grid county in Colorado. But these guys in the media and politics, and some of the guys going down the Trump rally, they could be described as token black guys. So they're on the left and the right. And the reality is, also from watching so many cop watching videos, you have a lot of outrageous behavior towards white people from white cops. From Hispanic cops to suspected Hispanic gang members. I was watching a video on Tom Zebra, you know, where the guy arrested him for jaywalking and not going across fast enough and saying whatever. Or people are literally punished for their free speech. Not to sit there and go into all the things that are wrong. You can go and look for yourself at what's wrong. There's a certain amount of police officers that become possessed, what I would say is a spirit of evil. And there you have the steroids, you have the drug use, and they're hurting people because they're demonically taken. Being that this is a YouTube channel where I talk about the larger spiritual picture. Just like in certain bad areas or bad neighborhoods, there's more cop shootings because the cops are affected by that negative energy. You have other areas where there's less violence, less gangs, less certain problems, and you have less cases of excessive force on the part of police officers. So that's another perspective. Is that there's a lot of evil on the planet right now coming from a spiritual place, a lot of mind control coming through the web, which is really more of a dark web than anything else. And so no one is immune. No one is immune in a world where they try to separate black, white, immigrant, American, police officer, non-police officer, police officer, black person. So you have people running around, I'm not discounting the fact that there are murders of people in this country, but the cult-like nature of the co-opted protests, where it may start with a genuine concept and then go over here, and then have communists a part of it, and then like a plank, and then here are policies, minimum wage, $15 an hour, like now you're getting political with it. Now this is obviously looking controlled, and something that can be used to destabilize. So it started on a good thing, and we're also talking about Occupy, to a degree, holding bankers accountable, holding police accountable, and then going, woo, we're going to come over here with it, and just disrupt our own communities. Instead of actually have meetings and change things on the local level, we're just going to create disturbances in the street. No, this is mass mind control, this tactic, and it goes nowhere. Just like some of the protests, oh, this is real, man, France, it's really going to build up. Yeah, people protest, they're throwing stuff at cops, and then it simmers down. Sometimes there are celestial events and full moons and solar flares, or people are extra amped up, and the energy on the planet changes and things go back to normal. Our history shows this. There is no major revolution or coup that's overtaking any country anywhere and then expanding positive change from there. Not Ireland, nowhere in Europe, not North America. The whole world's already under this new world order. So they've got this, and I'll elaborate more on that in other videos. Police versus civilian thing going on. America! ISIS threat. People with cameras. Cops wigging out. So I'm so brainwashed by their profession, which I think could, maybe do a little bit of brain damage. Injuries aside on a physical level, on a cognitive level, dealing with so many perceived threats, and it becomes a part of them to be afraid and be in a certain mentality, have to grab for your gun because any of them could be a cop killer. Any of them could choose to be that one. Not all cops do that, but a certain amount do. And when you're working 8 hours a day, and 10 hours, and you're feeling that, and all of a sudden a protest shows up, you know, and they're stepping on a Blue Lives Matter flag, taunting you, or taunting the cop. That can aggravate things a little more, and that's what Mike Smith was doing with Robert West. Robert West, by the way, films the police for years, been watching his channel. And so I've seen these cop watchers also, to add into this, that are all about cop watching. I think this would be a good time to talk about certain things I've never talked about. I used to be a really close friend of Mike Smith. Mike Smith, that filmed the police of Portland, used to come to a lot of my meetings. And what I saw in Mike Smith over the years, especially towards the end, was a very angry dude that would fucking straight up go off on you and his girlfriend, to the point where I saw him as a maniac towards the end. Very inconsiderate, stayed on his couch for a few days during some rough times when I came back to Portland, and the way that he treated me for staying on his couch, even though he had been homeless for 10 years and living off a woman for many, that he met through me at one of my meetup groups. I saw a guy treating me like shit because of my situation. And then one day even suggesting, I think, that I wanted his girlfriend, or having some sort of paranoid thing because we went and bought groceries together. So this is a prominent cop watcher. And what I'm trying to say is some people have their own demons that they haven't kept in check, and it's easy for them to project their internal problems on others. And it doesn't mean that Mike doesn't do fantastic work. It means that he has different sides to him. And, you know, a lot of the stuff, and I don't want to sound too new agey, there's a reason why we're here. We're not just innocent little angels. We have to work on ourselves to make the world a better place, not just blame cops or the system. We have to become better people. We can do positive things to bring people together. And because of the way Mike Smith, the film The Police, talked to me, and even ordered me out of his house when he was flipping out, and he would play video games all night long, and I would just ask, since I was a guest, but I guess I asked too much for him to not chomp and honk up loogies and play video games till 5 a.m. because I was in a bad place, need a little bit of rest. And I was like, wow. And you say you've been a train hopper for 15 years before you found some girls to stay with of the last decade, and then became a cop watcher, earning a little YouTube AdSense after you got some time to get on your feet and stabilize your shit? You're going to do all that? So I thought that was, some people have different sides to them. And they really should be working on themselves. Because when it really comes down to it, we can be angry all we want at the system and politicians and Obama and the police. If we haven't checked our own demons, as far as I'm concerned, we remain stuck in this matrix. Number 2, Robert West. Promoted Robert West for years and years and years and years. Unfortunately, he seems to get himself arrested a lot and a lot and a lot. But what I noticed from Robert West, because I accidentally forgot to cite him, even though I've promoted him and spoken about him in my videos, which he doesn't watch, so he doesn't know that. He doesn't know that I promote the Robert West channel independently in these independent videos. Check out their stuff. They're documenting what's going on in Portland. He files copyright one of my videos of Keith Davis being arrested, along with Joel Wash and a woman named Mary, after they spoke their mind at City Hall. Why not enable me to share that with others? Why invoke copyright and go to the archons of YouTube to punish me? And I see that Robert West has this unfortunate luck. He cop watches all the time of getting arrested. And I'm not saying there's a connection. I am mildly suggesting karma. Because I've walked this life without people running around attacking me. And I haven't been doing extensive cop watching. But it's like, I do believe to a certain degree, if you have repeat things happening to you, it's for a reason and you need a wake-up call. And it is unfair what the aggression police, what the Portland police have tried to do to Bob West. And I see how Mike being super bold and everywhere at the same time and a prominent YouTube channel gives him a little bit of protection. But I would say to Mike Smith, you know in your heart whether you're doing more good than wrong. And you may be doing more good than harm. But from what I saw, I see a microcosm for a macrocosm, just like I talked about Portland. And to shift topic just slightly, I've seen how a lot of people have tried to get away from spiritually what's going on with our cities. With this darkness, I think that this resistance to monotheistic religion gets confused with people just generally looking at what's going on with the dark side. And people being overtaken by these dark forces. It's not really a religious thing. And so what I can say is that's the core of really what I talk about. And what I talked about in Portland. And it's what I see with some of these corrupt cops. And sometimes taking things like steroids or being an abuser of other things, power aside, could open the door to more and more of those spirits to manipulate that cop or that enforcer or that code enforcer, that member of the military, that soldier. So what you're seeing with this manufactured Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter is completely controlled chaos across the board. In every conceivable way. Without the real issues being dealt with. Or any of those people really bringing up the fact those things are taking place. This path to world war. What are we going to do if we're without a grid? How can we work together? How can we build a different government? Or truly deal with the one that we have for people that want to work within the system. This is all controlled chaos. This is all wild anger. No. It's not true that all cops are in a conspiracy to kill people or unarmed black men. Is that narrative being put out there by the same establishment media machine that has pushed these wars and demonized the Middle Eastern people? And the answer is yes. They show us the violence to enrage the American people and not point the direction at the system that makes the policies that these officers are ordered to follow and brainwash into thinking that they have to extort. Otherwise, there would be anarchy. So a $250 fine or a $500, I mean, this is part of our religion of enforcement. It is necessary for that person to learn their lesson to not drive without insurance. Give us this or we'll take your this. Because we have not authorized you to travel on our roads because the system in place says you have to have insurance. The system in place that the cops themselves did not create, but the system that in fact created the profession of the police officer. So we have to recenter the focus on the system, the same system that can leave cops holding the bag. And I'm not just talking about losing their pension funds. That's pretty much all Alex Jones ever ranted about. Being in danger like the rest of us if this country ever goes directly south and they lose their jobs, or they choose to walk away from their jobs, or even if they choose to keep their jobs. The amount of shit that they're going to have to deal with and are dealing with, there's nothing glamorous about that, regardless of all the TV shows that they've made that were entertaining cop shows. I think of Hunter back in the 80s. And that show, there's a little bit of programming like, whoa, the system's always holding the cop back from using excessive force, and the criminal always gets away because the system is for the criminal. Well, I think the system plays both. It's playing both, just like it's playing black against white. It's playing the criminal against the cop. Look at Hollywood and the system's control over that. And all these movies came to me last night. I was thinking about this that have elaborated on how and shoot, like, someone killing 5 cops, 6 cops, whether it's the Matrix or the Terminator. Like, here's Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie, and he's simulating a robot murdering, like, 50 cops. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not saying I'm, like, all for this being banned. I'm saying, isn't this kind of fucking weird? You know, just like the hip-hop culture, boop, boop, fuck the police, boop, boop. And you figure out some of that shit was infiltrated and directed to promote the gangster hip-hop culture. Some of it was a little bit genuine and later co-opted, and then all the conspiracy of Suge Knight, oh yes, and all of this. And people feed into it. They feed into the drama, and they miss the larger picture. So I'm going to close here. The larger picture is we're all on this planet together, and they've got us confused over what we are, white, black, but yeah, we're all in the same cage as they build a wall around us. And that's the way they want it. Because that which is control of the U.S. government is planning future wars in which China and Russia are to react. If the American people were strong and fit and healthy and not being fed full of this internationalist Monsanto test product and distracted by fighting each other, yeah, maybe we would actually have a chance of actually dealing with a foreign threat. Especially with the amount of guns that are in this country. But no, they've created a different parallel reality where they have people fighting each other and not even having a discussion about these issues. And so what you're seeing is by design. I encourage people to escape, migrate, relocate away from areas. There are going to be certain problem areas where you're going to see a population perhaps divided over race. Say a population that's susceptible to that type of programming. There may be multicultural communities where they're going to see through this in America, and then others where, because of the certain environmental circumstances that they're under, their very environments, what's going on in their lives, the demographic they're in, some people are going to be in a mindset of fight the enemy within, and they'll take part in the manufactured civil war. Be honest with yourself as to whether or not you're in an area where you're likely to see more of that or less of that. There's a reason why I've relocated away from certain areas. But ending on a spiritual note, we are a spirit inhabiting human form. And ultimately there's a reason why we're here. And the solution to getting out of this kind of a matrix seems to really require trust, love, cooperation, honor, respect, and certain things seem to lock us in this type of a matrix. Resentment, anger, lying against your neighbor, murdering other people, working with other murders, stealing from other people. So I definitely see this as an opportunity for you and I to choose whether we want to evolve as a soul or stay in these type of realities. That's ultimately where I want to leave you with now.